Okay, hello everyone. My name is Anthony Tsavelis. Bonjour. That's about the only French that I know. I apologize. I am Canadian, but my French teacher kicked me out of class one too many times. So, I wanted to start off by asking the audience a question. What is your bow tie? I know, weird question, right? It has nothing to do with the blue bow ties that you have. But what is your bow tie? Now, you probably don't know the answer to this question, probably because you don't know what this question means. But I promise you, by the end of this talk, you will see bow ties in a whole different light. So, some context as to why bow ties are so prevalent and what it has to do with happiness can be explained through my journey to becoming a Scrum Master. So my journey was a very unique one, and it started off in fashion. I was a fashion designer, started off in my hometown of Toronto, and I loved fashion. I was in fashion for over a decade, and I think it was the fact that when people put on the garments that I created, it gave them confidence. It gave them a sense of courage, and I love that for people. I love seeing that transformation. But unfortunately, for me, in 2004, after a decade of being in fashion, the Canadian industry, the Canadian fashion industry, imploded. And I was left for broke to feed my family. Luckily for me, I had a lot of really good friends in tech. So a friend of mine came to me and told me how much money he was making. And he said, "Anthony, do you know of any database administrators?" I was like, "You know what? Give me a week, I'll figure it out." So, to say the least, after about a week, I kind of gave up on that. I said to my wife, "You know what? I'm going back to school." So took out a $20,000 loan and went back to school. A year later, I came out a database administrator, and within 6 months' time, I had my first job as a Unix administrator at Citigroup. And it gave me the confidence to feed my family, have some money, and to test the waters, because I was reinventing myself. I didn't know who I was, what I was going to do, God bless you. And so I continued on this journey for approximately 9 years as a systems administrator. And there are a ton of stories that I love to share with you, but unfortunately we don't have that much time. But there's one story in particular that shifted my mindset that I wanted to share with you all. And it started in a basement. I was working at a company, and the department was situated in a basement. And it was gloomy. It had those little windows where there was not really much sunlight. It had it was worse lighting than this. And there was just this gloomy aura about the environment that it didn't sit with me right. And I wanted to change things. And I knew that I couldn't last a long time coming into this type of environment. So one day I decided I need to fix this. And so I did what any fashion designer would do. I would go out and seek retail therapy. And so I went to the nearest Winners, as I usually do, and I went into the tie section, because I was a big tie guy back then. As you can tell, I don't wear any ties anymore, but back then I was wearing a lot of ties, and there was this one tie that stood out for me. It made me smile. I was like, I like that tie. It was a bow tie. I've never worn bow ties before. And it was green checked, and it just had something about it. I was like, I gotta buy this. So I went and I bought it. It was a Tuesday night, and I said the next day, I'm gonna wear this bow tie, because it makes me happy, it makes me smile. And so I walked in the next day, on the Wednesday, with this brand new bow tie, smiling. As I was explaining before, fashion can change people, give them courage, make them a different person. And so when I walked in, I had this big goofy smile on my face. I'll never forget the first woman that I ran into. She was like, "Hey, Anthony, what's the bow tie?" I was like, "I don't know, it makes me happy, it makes me smile. How about you?" Makes me smile too. Fantastic. So as the day went on, I started to realize that this is making other people ask the same question, making people smile, making people happy. All of a sudden, I had the whole department, this whole environment, everyone was cheerful. And it changed the whole aura of the department. And I was like, this is really fascinating. This is exciting for me. Because no longer will I have to come in to a gloomy department. So I decided that day. It's like, okay, on Wednesday, on hump day, I'm going to wear a bow tie. Coined it Bow Tie Wednesday. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with hump day, this is what they call the most difficult day of the week. And so when you get over that hump, the rest is smooth sailing. So I decided on hump day, I would wear a bow tie. And the results were phenomenal. I started buying more bow ties. Winners was getting a good deal. And other people, yes, I'll be answering your questions in a minute. But other people started wearing bow ties too. And people were dressing up. And people were having a good time. It was the Wednesday that I thought would never happen. And so it was a catalyst to every Wednesday, but it was also a catalyst for happiness for the rest of the week. And that was something that I always look forward to. And what I also didn't know was that this was a trigger for my mission to spread happiness years later when I was a Scrum Master. You had a question?
Yeah, just a comment. Since it's Wednesday, today, Monday, where's your bow tie?
You'll see in a minute. So, yeah, this was my entry to creating positivity experiments without me even knowing it. So, after my third layoff, I found myself being happy in cloud computing. And so I shifted my career yet once again. So I had my head in the clouds for approximately 7 years, going through roles like cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, and finally a cloud trainer. And I was teaching people how to cloud, if you will. And then on my fourth layoff, I know, I can't get a break. My fourth layoff, I decided I was going to open my own company, creating certification prep courses for people studying Google Cloud. And so I did that for a couple of years, a lot of fun, helped a lot of people, and there came a point where I got lonely because I was the only guy creating content, and I was there in my studio by myself. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I decided I was going to put myself back on the market. And I didn't want to start back off as a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer because coding didn't bring me joy. I wanted something that was going to get me excited to get out of bed. And so that's when I decided to start looking. And so when I discovered the Scrum Master role, I was like, oh my God, was this job made for me? And I know it's accountability, but the role itself, it fascinated me. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I did what any new Scrum Master would do, and I took the 2-day CSM course, put it on my resume, and started looking for a job. So there I was looking for a job as a Scrum Master, and I decided to utilize my big following on LinkedIn, and so I put out a post. And It got a lot of views. I'm talking 80,000 views. It was a lot. But one person specifically who reached out to me was my leader from my very first tech job. This is 18 years, mind you. And he reached out to me, he said, Anthony, give me your CV, and let's see what we can find you. I said, okay. So I gave him my resume, and 10 interviews later, between 3 teams, I had a job as Scrum Master. And it took me 3 weeks. And I was like, this is awesome. I got a job as a Scrum Master. It's exactly what I wanted. And I started thinking, I was like, so I'm curious as to why this guy, after 18 years, reached out to me. So I was on a quest afterwards. So I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to do what I usually do with the people that I care about. I'm just going to share food and drinks, and we're going to have a discussion. I was like, cool. So a month and a half later into my role as a Scrum Master, I reached out to my leader, and I said to him, let's go out. So we went out to this fancy Italian restaurant. Had some amazing pasta, beautiful wine, and I sat down and I asked him, I said, what did I do that was so memorable that you reached out to me 18 years later? He said, Anthony, I've been watching you on LinkedIn for the past 3 years, and you're so positive, you're so happy all the time, you're promoting people, you're celebrating other success, and I want that for my team. I was like, what? I was scratching my head. I was like, so I said to myself, was happiness the catalyst to my success all these years? And was positivity the reason why other people were hiring me? And if it was, what is it that I'm doing specifically to spark positive emotion in teams? And so this started my journey to find out how I could start being more purposeful about bringing happiness into the workplace. Okay, I'm going to switch gears for a second here. When was the last time that you were grateful for something? That is an amazing answer. Thank you. So this is an invitation to everyone. Take your blue bow tie and write down a moment of gratitude, whether it was 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. It could be personal or professional. And be sure to make it clear so you can read it. And when you are done, I want you to take your bow tie, and I want you to give it to somebody else. Better yet, keep on switching. Just keep on going. Let's get crazy here. But I don't want you to end up with your own bow tie. All right, let's stop. Now I want you to read your bow tie. Now, for everyone who's read their bow tie, I want to see a show of hands. Did it make you happy? Yes? Amazing! I love this. So, this is something similar to a positivity experiment that I ran with a team that I was working with. I came across some research during my studies with positive psychology. And I read that after 21 days of writing down 3 moments of gratitude, it can actually rewire your brain to make you more positive. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. I got to share this with somebody. So I decided to share it with my team. So first day after daily scrum, shared with the team the research that I found, but I also shared a moment of gratitude of my own. Guys, it's been amazing. I love coming to work every single day and working with you all. Thank you so much. And I did the same thing again the next day. But this time, I asked others to share a moment of gratitude. And 1 or 2 people shared. But then I got to a point where after every daily scrum, people were sharing their moments of gratitude. And this is so fascinating to me. It got to a point where it created a ripple effect. And to this day, probably, I want to say a year later, people have coined it the gratitude corner. And they continue to do it. They continue to share their moments of gratitude. And it got to a point where one team member was so impressed on how well this worked that she decided to bring it home and use it after family dinner. And it had the same effect. It was really incredible. And what was even more incredible is that it also helped people become more engaged with their work, engaged with each other. Speaking of engagement, I have a question for everyone. What is the percentage of people that you think are disengaged in the workplace? I want to see a show of hands for 40%.
Is it going up or down?
Going up. 62%. 78%. 83%. The correct answer is 59% of the global workforce. And this is a report done in 2023, so this is very recent, from the Gallup State of the Global Workplace report. And I found this data so fascinating. But what will really blow your mind is that 18% on top of that are loud quitting. So they're quiet quitting, but they're complaining about it. And this, to me, sounded extremely worrisome. Because, I mean, how many people are showing up at work and they're working for the weekend? That just sucks. So on that same topic of engagement, we all know that retrospectives are a key way to gain engagement. Would you agree? Yeah? Okay. So the team came to me one day, and they were like, we don't want to do retrospectives anymore. We hate it. Sound familiar? Yeah? And me being the happy guy that I am, I'm like, you know what? If it really makes you that unhappy, let's cancel it. So I canceled the retrospective. And I know what you all are thinking. You're like, Anthony, you better get off that stage. Throw you out like the French teacher did. But I wanted the team to be happy. And so I thought, okay, let's experiment with this. Let's try it for a couple months, see how it works. And if it doesn't work, we can always go back to the way things were. Of course, it made me a little bit sad. But I decided, let's try it. And it was really interesting what happened. So I only had one stipulation, though, and that was if we cancel the retrospective, how are we supposed to discuss our problems? So we decided that if there were any problems that arose, we would discuss it either that same day or the next day. And they were like, yeah, okay, we can deal with this. So we started with it, and over, I'd say about a month's time, people started to silo. People started grouping with each other, and they stopped talking to each other. I was like, what the heck is going on here? I was like, maybe it's just a thing. I'll just let it be. And it got to a point where daily Scrum was no longer about a conversation. It was just a matter of, it became mechanical Scrum. And didn't sit well with me. But I didn't really understand how bad it was until one of the team members came to me and said, Anthony, this is a dumpster fire. We need an intervention, and you need to do something about this. It's like, oh, okay, this is serious. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job. But this doesn't quite describe how I felt. This was more how I felt. I was the guy with that burning red right there. Because I was mortified. I was like, this is supposed to make people happy, and it wasn't. And although I'd really love to discuss this slide some more, because it's an awesome slide, right? The bottom line was that I had to change something. And so we had a retrospective of the retrospectives. So we had a meeting. We all got together and said, what happened here? And we had a big discussion, and they realized that because they were taken out of an environment where they were talking to each other, and now they weren't talking to each other, and it started to trickle down into every single other event. So they all decided, we want the retrospective back. Stipulation, we only talk about work. No fluffy stuff. We don't want your, icebreakers or anything like that. Just work stuff. I was like, cool. Made me super happy. Now, although this experiment seemed like it was a failure, well, it actually was a failure. Let's just be real. It was a failure, but in the end, it proved to be successful. Now, what was really interesting is another story I'm about to tell you. With regard to bringing more happiness to the workplace. So I went out with my VP again. Same fancy restaurant, beautiful pasta, nice wine, but over cannoli. He asked me a serious question. He said, Anthony, how are you always so happy? I didn't know what to say, so I gave him some lame answer. But it did have me reflecting on what is it that made me so happy? Why am I always so happy? And so it gave me some things to think about, but not just for me. It was more about how am I empowering others to be just as happy? And if I am always so happy, what is the secret that I can share with others so I can scale happiness? I mean, I was thinking to myself, how awesome would it be to work with a team of happy people. I mean, I don't think anyone here is going to say no to that. So how was I going to scale my happiness? And so I decided that the best way to do it is to go back and search for the data. And that was back into positive psychology. So I dug into that, and I dug deeper into the research and looked into some work by Martin Seligman and others that were really good in the space. And how positive psychology did play a huge factor in happiness at work. And to my surprise, happiness at work was a lot more than the fluffiness that a lot of people thought about, a lot of leaders think of. There's so much data to prove how happiness is a huge factor in productivity. And so I wanted to share some of that data with you all to open your eyes as well. So Sean Acor, a research scientist and the world's leading expert on the connection between happiness and success, said that happier people or more positive people are shown to be 31% more productive than people who are unhappy. To me, that's huge. Some more data for you. According to a Reich survey from Positivity to Productivity, happier employees demonstrated a 79% lower burnout rate than those who are unhappy. And I'm sure, a lot of this is not new to you, but when you see the numbers, when leaders see this number, it makes a huge impact. Last piece of data that I want to share. A research program from the Eye Opener Institute for People and Performance showed that with over 60,000 respondents in over 180 countries, happier people take 10 times less sick leave. Less sick leave, more work done. And you get to hang out with some cool people. So this data is mind-blowing to me. And through this data and the positivity experiments that I ran, it gave me a clear vision on how I can scale happiness and a model that could support my vision and my mission. And that model is called the Happiness Blueprint. Now, the Happiness Blueprint, I came up with this fresh new idea that's not a framework, it's not a set of principles, it's merely a model that's fit to run positivity experiments that hit key points that I have found to keep teams happy. And I'm going to go through it with you in a little bit of detail, and is shown here by the use of an acronym called the IMPACT. So the IMPACT model, I'll go through with you and touch on those key points. So the I, first letter is I for inspiration. Now with inspiration, we're establishing a clear, inspiring vision for the team to align with. We're breaking down the vision into SMART goals. So parameters that help ensure that your objectives are reachable within a certain amount of time. And finally, we're reviewing and celebrating these goals. Because when you achieve goals, they're great. But when you celebrate those achieved goals, that's the winner. The next letter is M for mindset. Now with mindset, we're thinking about fostering a positive and inclusive culture. We're encouraging open communication and creating a safe space for team members. And we're allowing them to express their ideas without any fear of judgment. So you could say it comes along the lines of psychological safety. We're also promoting a growth mindset where learning and improvement are more valuable than perfection. We're also recognizing and celebrating individual and team achievements, and we're providing positive feedback so that our team members can grow. Next letter is P for power. Now, this is not to confuse power over people. This is about empowering our team members. This is about providing team members with the resources and support they need to succeed. It's about encouraging team members to take ownership of their work and make decisions autonomously. It's also offering opportunities for skill development and career growth. Next letter is A for alliance. And we want to think about this as encouraging collaboration and teamwork. So we're scheduling regular team building activities, workshops, and we want to improve overall trust amongst the team members. We're also reflecting on team performance and identifying areas for improvement because, of course, relationships matter in day-to-day activities, especially if you're working with people every single day at the same place. The next letter is C for care. And this is more about maintaining psychological safety, as I was saying earlier. So we're addressing conflicts and challenges within the team, and we're facilitating healthy resolution through communication and, of course, respect. We're encouraging empathy and understanding amongst team members by promoting active listening and open-mindedness. We're providing support and resources for team members to manage stress and maintain work-life balance that we all love to see. And the last letter is T for transformation. So this is where we want to, as Agilists, measure and iterate, right? Because the data matters. And we all love metrics, especially our leaders, right? So we want to use those metrics to track not only the work, but we want to track the positivity experiments as well. Are they successful? If they're not, let's try something new. So it's all about improvement. And we're regularly soliciting feedback from each team member to evaluate the effectiveness of the positivity experiments. And lastly, we want to continuously refine and adjust the process based on the data that we've been given. And so with the impact model, you can create and use positivity experiments that feed into each key letter in this model. And it helps teams become happier and more productive because of it. Because we all know every team is going to be different in nature. And so therefore, the positivity experiments are going to be different, and so are the happiness blueprint. So now, I want to inspire you with some positivity experiments that I've run personally and that have been proven to be extremely successful. Okay, first experiment. Some low-hanging fruit here. We want to show up every meeting on camera with a smile and a positive attitude. I know it sounds so simple. You're like, Anthony, this is ridiculous. It's not. Trust me when I tell you this. We're encouraging open communication. We're modeling a safe space for others. We're developing trust through commitment of constantly showing up this way. And I've seen it. It works. People start trusting. People start turning on the camera. People apologize for not being on camera. How many times have you heard that? There's so many times where I go into the office and people are like, hey, Anthony. I'm like, hey, who are you? Because they never have their camera on. And I say, how do you know me? How do you know my name? Oh, I see you on camera every single day. Interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about doing the same. True story. And this experiment touches on the impact model, touching on mindset, power, and care. Okay, second experiment. Some more low-hanging fruit. Schedule a team outing outside of the office where no work is being discussed. Nothing. And this will encourage open communication. It's going to foster a safe space for team members to express their ideas, things that they care about. And it's going to encourage collaboration and teamwork. Because now you get to know the people you're actually working with. So it's not about their careers per se. It's, what do you do after work? Do you brew beer? Do you play ice hockey? Do you do cycling? I like making pizza and making coffee. Everyone knows that, and I share it with everyone. And there, whenever there's a discussion about coffee, hey Anthony, where's the good coffee place? They wouldn't have known that. They wouldn't have asked me that question if they didn't know me, right? So it's about getting to know each other. And this touches on mindset, alliance, and care on the impact model. Okay, last experiment I'm going to share with you. This is using journey lines as an exercise to learn about each other. So I first read about this technique in a book called Coaching Agile Teams by Lisa Atkins. If you haven't read that book, highly recommend it. Go out tonight. Get it from Amazon. Just get the book. It's awesome. And this exercise allows you to understand each person's past, what they've achieved, what they were disappointed in, and it helps you get a little bit under the surface of what's going on with that person and each person in your team. It also creates vulnerability and builds empathy, which leads to trust, right? And by far, this has been the very most effective experiment that I have done to date. People still talk about it 2 years later. Kid you not. And if you're curious, this is my journey line here. And so this experiment touches on mindset, power, alliance, and care in the impact model. Now, although we love to help teams and each team member, we also must remember to practice these actions ourselves so that we can model them for others. So I implore you all to find what resonates with you, that makes you happy, that makes you smile, and share it with others, like I did with Bow Tie Wednesday. And doing this, you can lead the way to a happier workplace, a positive workplace, where people are excited. They're no longer dreaded looking for that escape, but they want to revel in it. They want to come to work on Monday and be excited. And so I want to leave you with the question that I asked you before. What is your bow tie? Merci. I open the floor to questions. Yes.
How many people actually put on the bow tie?
I saw a few people. Yes.
So, out here in the Agile Tour world, this is very cool. I'm wondering, in my day job as a Scrum Master, how much guess, let me reframe the question. How much of a different Scrum Master are you because of this compared to the average Scrum Master?
That's a great question. So when I was looking at, let me rephrase that. When I was doing some reflection on these positivity experiments and how it's changed me, it's now, I look at it now as if I didn't change, then the teams wouldn't change as well. It's just like, are you a parent? So if you aren't modeling for your kids what you want to see in them, they're not going to do it, right? If you tell them you need to do this because I said so, they're going to be like, whatever, Dad, right? But instead, if you show them, if you be an example, now all of a sudden you have people's attention. And like I said before, a lot of this you can consider as fluffy, but it's not fluffy because the data proves otherwise. And because I've ran these positivity experiments so many times over a mass amount of years, and they've worked. I don't know, all I can say is that I continue to do them, and I continue to see results. You know, I started working with a team approximately 3 weeks ago, and the first experiment that I showed you, I did that. And guess what? Now people are opening up to me. And when I'm away, like right now, they're not opening up to anyone. But they'll open up to me. So it's the start of something that could be exciting. Not just for me, but for the team. I hope that answers your question. Oh my gosh, lots of hands, yes. Oh. Look at that, kindness at its best. I love it.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you. Do you have days when you feel, because you're not happy, right? You're not every day happy.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely, I'm
no,
human.
you're a human.
Yes.
There should be days when you
I
don't
have
feel so
shitty
happy.
days too, yes.
Yeah. So on those days, do you feel the pressure that people always expect you to be happy and you can't be happy on that day?
No.
Never.
And here's why. Is because I'm very transparent. So when I'm having a shitty day, and be like, hey guys, you know what? I'm not having a great day today, and I apologize if I come off rude or really edgy. And I usually get support from the team because I'm supporting them constantly, over and over and over every single day. And when they see somebody that needs their support, they jump right in. And
Thank
it's
you.
because I continue with that mindset of doing those positivity experiments and giving them the support that they need.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
We'll sing now. It's not much of a question, but more of a sharing of experience.
Sure.
Two things
God
I
bless
do related to positivity or things like that is the first thing I do when I when I work with a new team, I do one-on-ones with every people on the team, and one of the thing I tell them is one of my goal as a Scrum Master is to have happy people, because a happy person in his job will do the job and do it well. They won't ask themselves, oh, I should do something better. No, they're doing it because they're loving it, they're happy. Someone who is not happy in his job, you're lucky if he's doing the par. So that's what I tell them, and I tell them, if you're not happy, come see me. We're gonna see what's the problem, we're gonna work on that for that reason. The other thing I do in every retrospective, I have a wall of kudos, which is a little bit like your daily. And the first thing we do, okay, I have the health check at the start, but after that, write a post-it to thank someone or say bravo to someone. And if it's someone outside the team, I'm gonna share it with them. So it creates a culture of thank you and collaboration.
It does.
Because if you're saying thank you to someone, that person will want to help you and you want to help them to.
Because they're human.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's just like you walk down the street and you smile at somebody, they're going to smile back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wouldn't say every time, but I'd say a good, 98%. Yes. The mic is coming.
On my way.
Thank you. Nice. I have to say, I love the question of the first person, the one in front of me, because we talk a lot about positivity, but sometimes we can go to like toxic positivity.
Yes.
So how to not cross that line and feel like it's really genuine and we don't feel pressure by other or to be fake to doing it.
So I have found personally that the way I show up every day is the way I show up all the time. And in order for me to do that, I have to find what keeps me happy. So things like eating well, things like hydration, things like going for a run, spending time with my kid at the park, going on a bicycle ride, eating fantastic food, hanging out with great friends. All these recharge my batteries, and I'm able to show up afterwards with that same attitude. So maybe it's finding what is right for you, what makes you happy.
Thanks.
No problem. Yes, in the front. I know you've been waiting for so long.
How do you actually measure your team happiness?
Ooh, great question. So I do a couple of things. First off, I usually like to, do I hate to say it, but I do a report. I send out a survey, people answer it, and then I work from there. And then it's more about observing, right? You observe how the team is acting towards each other. You observe when people are having their down days, when people are having their up days, what sets them off, and constantly being inquisitive, asking questions.
So it's more about perception than actually, okay, are you happy with this, and that, like a form, like the initial form?
I mean,
with some questions?
surveys can be skewed, right? I did a survey once, and the answers that were coming back, it was a great overall average, but the answers that were coming back from the team members questioned the validity of that report. Because then it was like, wait a second, these guys are saying, well, it could be skewed this way and that way, and it's really, like, come on. So sometimes you have to take it for face value, but sometimes, being Scrum Masters, coaches, we know when our teams are unhappy. We know when specific people are off. You can see it. And so it's about being observant, asking questions, and being aware of how everyone around you is feeling. Hope that answers your question. Yes.
Hello. So I'm wondering if you ever encounter like resistant, grumpy people.
All
And
the
how do you-
time. Oh
How
my
do you
God.
handle that?
Yes, all the time. I told one guy before I left for work, I was like, I'm going to a conference. He's like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm one of the speakers. Oh, what are you talking about? Happiness in teams. Really? Yeah, dude. Here's the data to show you. Oh. Shut them up real quick. Anyways, so you're always going to encounter those grumpy people. There's no way around it. And all you can do is continue showing up the same way. It's all you can do. Eventually, I've seen people come around, but I've seen other people, they're like, yeah, I don't want to do this Scrum thing, I'm out.
Okay.
They eventually exit right. Because they don't, when you have such a positive environment and energy around the negativity always exits, always.
Okay.
Trust me when I say that. Yes.
Are you making a case for hiring a psychotherapist with
No.
specialty in group dynamics as a Scrum Master?
No. It's not psychotherapy. This is positive psychology. This is taking data that's already out there and using experiments that I've already tried. And I'm not a psychotherapist. I've never gone to psychotherapy for school. I'm a university dropout twice. So I've just, it's more about being human. And it's about looking at how humans behave and how can we help them be better. That's all. It's more about kindness, empathy, and just being a good person overall. You know, because you want the people that you work around with to be happy because you want to show up to work every day and not be sad for being there. Next thing you know, you're looking for another job, right? You don't want to do that. You want to work with what you got. Because I truly believe, and I don't know if everyone here feels the same, but I truly believe that there's goodness and kindness in everyone. And we have to set the stage for that as coaches to bring it out in people. No psychotherapy needed. Hope that answers your question. Anyone else? Yes, guy with the bow tie. Love it.
So to come back to your gratitude exercise that we did,
Yes.
and I wanted to share a story.
Please.
My brother, he has children, and since a very young age, they have a ceremony every night before sleep. They go around and they tell all one event of gratitude, and it made the best children I ever met. Yeah, because like they won't expect a gift. They're amazing. So I guess with the employees, it might be something really.
Maybe. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yes. Oh, we got a few hands in the back.
Thank you. I was waiting for the mic to actually make its way, so you don't have to run in between. It really, your talk reminds me so much of Ted Lasso, which is a series on Netflix, which is a extremely positive leader on Apple TV. Oh, sorry, Apple TV. That really is modeling behavior through his system value. And I'm curious because you talked of 3 different experiments. One was modeling, one was like a hangout or the beer, and the other one was something very personal when you go through your time frame, your journey. Can you talk about how do you select those experiments?
Ooh,
By
that's a
using
good question.
your model, right?
Right. So selecting them is because every team, like I said before, every team is unique. So therefore, the positivity experiments are going to be different. Now, I am coming out with workshops to help people design these experiments, but how I look at it is, what can you do, first of all, to show up as a more positive person? And second of all, where is the team struggling? Are they actually talking to one another? Are they together, but they're not really engaged with the work? Are they having issues at home that they're bringing to work? Or, is somebody being Mr. Negative and blah, 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 to the rest of the team? There's so many different scenarios, so many different variables that it's so hard to come up with one specific experiment. which is why, you know, I tell people, try something, anything that can foster that positivity and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, find something else. Try something else. But don't stop trying, is all I'm trying to say. Thanks for the question. Yes, you had a question.
Oh, you don't want it? Okay.
So I'm going to turn around the question and ask you. Before COVID, how many people had camera on? Everyone. It's just the facts. Everyone had camera on, and as soon as COVID hit, then all the leaders were like, and organizations were saying, well, you know, we don't want to push people, we want to be kind to them, and then it just became the norm. But I mean, when you show up to work, like physically, do you have a mask on? Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So I've worked with teams that haven't turned on their camera in a year, but I still show up, camera on, every single time. And even though I can't see them, I'm aware enough to hear it in their voice whether or not they're happy or they're pissed off. And I personally think that if I continue to show up that way, that it will change people's attitude, even if you're an introvert. So, sure, you may not see them because they're an introvert, but doesn't mean that they're not happy. But at the same time, you have to do whatever you can as a coach to show up the way that you expect others to show up, even if they don't want to show up that way, in order to foster positivity. Any more questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Invitation, for sure. No. I'm not saying that, you know, you have to tell your team, you need to turn your camera on. No, it doesn't work. It's an invitation, always an invitation. So thank you for bringing that up. Are we at time? Oh, damn it. I want more questions. Thank you, everyone.